Eileen Gu shouldn't be surprised that Americans are mad at her for competing for China. Hello and welcome to another edition of Free Agent. Don't be afraid to make a big sports prediction about something 15 years in the future. If you're wrong, no one will care. If you're right, you'll look like a genius. We've got a jam-packed newsletter for you all this week, covering everything from Eileen Gu to winning the medal count through economics and closing with a podcast appearance from yours truly. Somewhere in between, you'll find the word Yukigassen. Enjoy. American woman? Eileen Gu is an extraordinary all-American success story. She was born in San Francisco and raised by a dedicated single mother who had moved to the U.S. for a demanding postgraduate education career at Auburn, Rockefeller University, and then Stanford's Business School. Gu started skiing on the mountains towering over Lake Tahoe when she was just 3 years old, and won a national championship at age 9. She was fortunate enough to be educated in prestigious private schools and gained early admittance to Stanford, where she joined a sorority. She's attractive and incredibly successful, enough to have a celebrated modeling career on her impressive resume, including glamorous campaigns with iconic American brands like Victoria's Secret and Tiffany & Company. Yet after all the US helped her accomplish, she chose to compete under the Chinese flag instead of the American one. And she can't seem to figure out why Americans are so mad about it. China helped Gu too, of course, with its own long list of sponsorship campaigns, including with state-owned companies, and the small matter of millions of dollars in taxpayer funds. Don't forget the special exception she seems to have to China's ban on dual citizenship. Yet when Gu talks about this controversy, she's either playing dumb or, for some reason, can't figure out why people are mad. So many athletes compete for a different country, she said in response to Vice President J.D. Vance. People only have a problem with me doing it because they kind of lump China into this monolithic entity, and they just hate China. Gu does the same act when she's asked about 1.5 million Uyghurs in Chinese concentration camps. I'm not an expert on this, she told Time magazine. I haven't done the research. I don't think it's my business. In an interview with Reason, one concentration camp survivor described sexual torture and other unspeakable horrors. For all its flaws, America is still a wonderful country. People love it here, and many foreigners want to be here. We pride ourselves on being the best at everything, because it's feasible for America to be the best at most things. All of the American pride shown during the Olympics is a clear example of this, a pride in our athletes that unified Americans of all backgrounds, except for a few miserable libs, and ended in one of our best finishes at the Winter Olympics ever. Of course, most people are proud of where they personally come from and where their ancestors came from. That usually has little or nothing to do with government policies, directly, anyway. So it's natural for Americans to feel betrayed by someone who could represent the United States but chooses not to, especially when they pick a country whose values are nearly diametrically opposed to ours. America's freedom and wealth made Eileen Gu who she is today, not Chinese communism. How to win the Olympics. Speaking of communism, you know what makes it hard to win Olympic medals? Central planning. It takes experience, population, and wealth to make a successful soccer nation, as journalist Simon Cooper and economist Stefan Szymanski wrote in the 2022 edition of their book Soccernomics, which I highly recommend. After home field advantage, they found that a long history of playing international soccer was the most predictive factor in explaining a country's international winning percentage. The next two most important factors were income and population size. In other words, being large and rich helps a country win matches, but having a long soccer history helps a lot more. It's reasonable to think those factors apply to most other sports, too, though perhaps at differing rates for each variable. The emphasis on experience is probably a proxy for local interest in specific sports as well as expertise in training, coaching, and innovation, such as Crotchgate. That explains how Norway, population 5.7 million, can win more medals than the United States, which has 60 times as many people. As I pointed out last week, the distribution of those medals across various sports probably helps Norway pad the medal count too. In addition to their long soccer histories, one thing that Europe has over American soccer is a localized network that's constantly exchanging ideas. In soccer, America is missing out on the best hub of information. In other sports, our wealth and history have probably helped to ensure that their respective hubs are placed in America, a large, prosperous country where networks can thrive in metropolises that are easily connected by highways and airports. For example, almost every time I watch a Detroit Red Wings game, the announcers point out that some player or coach on the other team grew up in the Detroit area, or participated in USA Hockey's national team development program that's based in the suburbs, or played college hockey in Michigan. Eileen Jiu shouldn't be surprised that Americans are mad at her for competing for China. In the modern world of sports, athletes often become more than competitors. They transform into cultural icons, political symbols, and representatives of national pride. Few athletes illustrate this complex reality better than freestyle skiing superstar Eileen Jiu. When Jiu decided to compete for China instead of the United States, the country where she was born and raised, she sparked admiration in some places and frustration in others. The reaction from many Americans, anger, disappointment, and confusion, should not have come as a surprise. This situation is not simply about sports. It sits at the intersection of identity, nationality, politics, and globalization. When athletes compete under a flag, they represent far more than themselves. They represent the people, culture, and national pride tied to that flag. Because of this, Gu's decision naturally triggered strong emotions among Americans who had long seen her as one of their own. A star with two worlds. Eileen Jiu was born in San Francisco, California, to an American father and a Chinese mother. She grew up in the United States, trained in American ski programs, and developed her early career through American sports systems. From a young age, she showed extraordinary talent in freestyle skiing, quickly rising through international competitions. At the same time, Jiu maintained strong ties to China through her mother and family heritage. She spent time there, spoke Mandarin fluently, and often expressed appreciation for both cultures. In many ways, she embodied the idea of a global citizen, someone comfortable navigating multiple identities. However, global identities can become complicated when international competitions require athletes to choose a single national team. The decision that changed everything. In 2019, Eileen Jiu announced that she would compete for China in international competitions, including the Winter Olympics. The decision.